So, Dragon Slash got a massive buff recently, and being the super on-time YouTuber that I am, I'm covering it about a month later. So, recently, as I'm recording this, the Happy Holidays perk has come by with the Jilly hero, who I can maybe scroll over while I'm talking here, and it reduces the ability cooldowns by 40%, requiring 3 heroes with 2 or more stars, which is a pretty low threshold. I mean, you don't have to evolve them very far at all, and you only need 3 of them, and that's a very, very incredible buff because with one team perk, it has just gone ahead and reduced the ability cooldown for every single ability in the entire game. So there are many abilities like Dragon Slash, which in my opinion is one of the strongest abilities in the entire game, and definitely, again, in my opinion, the strongest ability of all of the ninjas. Now, there are some loose exceptions, like for, in the specific situation with Lynx, maybe her specific kunai might be the most powerful ability, but at that point, we're really more or less talking about her team perk. I would say that Dragon Slash is, if you have a hero that you really enjoy or a ninja that you really enjoy using and it has Dragon Slash, that hero instantly just got so much stronger. And that's because, pretty simply, you could just crash through a wave of enemies and kill them in one strong swoop, and it's an amazing ability. So with the Happy Holidays team perk, that reduces that one's cooldown from 10 seconds down to 6 seconds because it's an even 40%. And this is much more effective with abilities that have bigger cooldowns. So like the minigun, for example, with Go and Commando cooldown by 66% being reduced by that amount, you could get this down to about an 18-second cooldown. And now with Happy Holidays, 18 seconds if I remember correctly, but with Happy Holidays, that 40% brings it all the way down to 5%. Now, I believe the 40% is after all buffs, so it's not reducing the minigun's cooldown by 40% and 66%, because then it would reduce the cooldown by 106%. 106% cooldown would mean that you basically get it with like a negative cooldown, and that just doesn't make sense at all. So it applies afterwards, and with the minigun, this makes it an extremely viable loadout. That's going to be another video though. Today we're talking about Dragon Slash because, I don't know, it's just a good starting point. And in the footage that I'm showing here, this was in the ninja cooldowns are reduced modifier, which at this point really only takes about a second off the Dragon Slash. And I'm showing this because this is like optimal Dragon Slash ability. Now, when it comes to Dragon Slash and getting it active, you really only have about 2 choices. Dragon Scorch, which is one of the strongest ones, and I believe the only hero in the entire game that actually makes the Dragon Slash any stronger. He increases the damage by 25%, increases the width to 2 tiles, which also scales upwards. I don't think I got any good footage of this. Maybe one clip that I can remember where I slashed along the side of a wall and it actually killed a guy on top of me. And this goes up and down, so you actually have a huge amount of area. I encourage you to test around in your own games and try to slash some enemies that you don't even think you could hit, because I think you'll be impressed with how huge this distance is. This is extremely effective for takers, or if a flinger throws something in the air, you might actually be able to hit those targets even if you don't realize it. And then, of course, it increases the range to 3 tiles, and that's up from 2 tiles, which doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but trust me, when it comes to the real world, a whole tile extra distance is pretty huge, especially considering that distance gets buffed with Tail of the Dragon. And this is basically your other contender for the lead. I think she's obviously the far more adorable pick, and certainly something most of us would prefer to be using in our lead. Her abilities aren't quite as great, seeing as she has the Dragon Slash, obviously, and she has the Throwing Stars, which is great because Throwing Stars gives you extra range, but that Crescent Kick isn't exactly helping anybody. So, in my opinion, having used Snuggle Specialist, because coincidentally, as I'm uploading this video, she has just come to the shop for the second time ever. I think she's in the event shop, my bad. There she is, right here. You can buy her as I'm recording this video, so if you're still watching this during the Frost Night of 2020 or /2019 event, then she's available, but I don't think that she's exactly going to be doing too much help in the lead, because even though her team perk as a commander does more damage, 64 base damage every 30 seconds is not that big of a deal. Slowing enemies down is hardly noticeable, and honestly, I don't think I got any good footage of this because I didn't record any of my gameplay today with her in the lead. It doesn't even seem to be working properly. That's just something I experienced. I observed that like enemies that were standing on top of the fire didn't display to be taking any damage. However, that could have been still damaging them but not showing anything. My point is 64 base damage is really not that powerful, and I think she's far more effective in the support because, as obviously, like I said, Dragon Scorch not only makes it do more damage, but it gives you longer range, which affects that Tail of the Dragon, and it gives you that huge area of effect. So I think Dragon Scorch is your best option in terms of using it as a lead. And the only other hero that I can imagine anybody would bring up, because there are only 3 heroes in the game that affect Dragon Slash, is Return of the Dragon. Now, making the energy cost for this, 75% is really only, I don't know when you'd ever need this. If you guys can show me a build that makes sense for that, I guess. It's not going to reduce the cooldown, just the energy. Note, with the shortest cooldown we can possibly get, we're still waiting like 4 or 5 seconds. So it's not that big of a deal. Now, it is a big deal to have her in the support, though. That 30% makes kind of a big difference, because if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if it updates this live. Yeah, I think it does. It's 35 energy. By default, I'm pretty sure the Dragon Slash costs about 50 energy, which is half of your energy, and makes it so that if you use your Dragon Slash, you'll only be able to use Throwing Stars or Smoke Bomb, whereas she brings it right down to 35 energy, which is, if you're constantly regenerating energy, if you're using Fuel for the Fallen, that is, you will be. You'll be able to use a Dragon Slash, pop a Smoke Bomb, and throw your Throwing Stars all kind of at once, which is something you'll obviously have been seeing me do a lot in this gameplay, and that's why all of my other support perks are basically buffing the Smoke Bomb. Throwing Stars, honestly, it's not that I forgot about them, I just don't think they need any buff, you guys. They throw pretty much dead accurate to where you're looking. They throw 3 stars, and there are a few heroes that'll give you 4 stars, or maybe, Fan of Stars if you use Shuriken. Like, there are a lot of Shuriken buffs in this game. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think Shurikens really need any help. And the Smoke Bombs with Medicinal Fumes allow you to heal yourself in the middle of battle. Now, this is a tough call. This is just a preference. This is not a best Dragon Slash build tutorial, but if you're buffing your Smoke Bombs, then I think Endless Smoke is definitely a contender, because that makes your radius on the Smoke Bomb quite a bit bigger. Like I said, though, if you do that, that's kind of our last chance for a healing perk here, and you're going to have to give something up for something to heal you, because when you're actively fighting encampments, which is usually what this build is for, you're out of things to heal you. Frankly, if you're really trying for it, I would probably just tank the Medicinal Fumes, and since you're already having a normal Smoke Bomb at this point, and you're only using this for healing, you might as well just go for like Coconuts, or if you don't have Coconuts, Survivalist would be a good second place. Now, this isn't my opinion, you guys. I know a lot of people prefer Survivalist just because it's nice and you don't have to hold the item, but Coconuts buff your damage by 16%, which I haven't tested this. I'm pretty sure that might affect your Dragon Slash. Don't quote me on that. But even if it doesn't, it's still a far more superior healing method, because Coconuts give you about 1/3 of your overall health, and it heals you over 30 seconds. And that healing rate over 30 seconds is still faster than Survivalist heals you. So Survivalist is nice for something passive, but if you're in the fight constantly attacking enemies, like I said, running encampments is usually when I personally pull out Dragon Scorch. You're going to want something like Coconuts to keep you in the fight. Now, that's, again, all preference. And Fuel for the Fallen is something where, like I said, if you're using all of your abilities, it's surprisingly necessary. I always thought that Dragon Slash had enough cooldown in between slashes that you'd be able to, always use it and not be that big of a deal. But eliminating enemies, this is still bugged, and I love that. I think it's still bugged from my experience. So its commander perk is restores 18 energy over 3 seconds, which is 6 energy per second for 3 seconds. And that seems to be what he's been giving for a very long time. I'm not sure that they've ever patched it so his standard perk is active. If I'm mistaken, I'll correct it, but let me know in the comments below if this ever gets fixed. I hope it doesn't, you guys, because he is an extremely usable, nice-to-have hero with his commander perk. If they nerfed it so that it was 6 energy over 3 seconds, that's just not that good, and it would make me quite sad. Unfortunately, the only thing that's really comparable to that is Saurian Focus, and I mean, if you're thinking about it, you could probably trigger this. Again, if you're fighting encampments and you're taking lots of damage, you probably don't always have a ton of shield anyway. But so long as it's working as this is right here, I think Fuel for the Fallen is definitely the way to go. And super important if you're using your Smoke Bombs and your Shurikens constantly. Now, all of these are just recommendations. What I'm talking about here is how good Dragon Slash is now at the Happy Holidays. But ultimately, if you really wanted to just have like a fun all-around build, you could go like kind of one or two ways with my personal playstyle. You could either go anatomy lessons and maybe throw on Paleo Luna or corrosive strikes, or what's the other one, Assassin Sarah, and maybe make like a melee build. Any two of those. Legendary Blade is kind of good for sword damage. If there are any that I missed, trust me, they're all probably okay. What I'm really going for is something that actually heals, or something that actually buffs other weapons. So you could use, say, First Assault if you, whatever reason, wanted to use a Hydra on this or something like that. You could roll with Assault damage, buffing your damage, Assault crit damage. You might even want to roll Locked and Reloaded. Something like this to just buff ARs, because if you don't have something that buffs your ranged weapons or your melee weapons in a build like this, then, as I've been saying, you're pretty much locked to just encampments, or if you're just playing a lower level mission and you want to just slash through all the enemies. Personally, I prefer to keep this an all ability loadout, seeing as Happy Holidays affects all of your abilities. I know we're focusing on Dragon Slash here, but this is not that bad of a smoke bomb ability. That throwing stars comes back 40% faster as well. It's an extremely fun way to play and a really, really good loadout. So if you guys have any other recommendations for how you like to use Dragon Slash, what it's good for, is another hero that I didn't mention that I should bring up, let me know in the comments below. Before I head out of here, I am going to bring up one hero that I've heard a lot of, and that is the other one with a sword in its thing here, and that's the Fire of the Dragon. A lot of people seem to want to use him because of the affliction duration. I have some harsh news. That Return of the Dragon fire trail is not affliction. That does not get buffed from this, and nothing from your Dragon Slash causes any affliction, so unless there's something I'm not aware of here, this is not that big of a deal. Now, if you use him in the lead, your Dragon Slash can apply affliction, dealing fire damage, but that's only fire damage, and you lose the 25% damage from Dragon Slash, or Dragon Scorch, plus his range and distance. And while he is another hero that buffs Dragon Slash, it's really, there's a reason that I brought him up at the very end here, and that's that he's just not that good in my opinion. So if you disagree, feel free to use him. I don't choose your loadouts, but that's it for me, you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will be covering more loadouts in future videos, but if you want me to cover anything sooner than the others, let me know in the comments below. I would like to make the most interesting loadouts first and get you guys something cool to watch. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Thank you for watching, and have a good day, you guys.